Hello my culinary friends, and welcome to another edition of Papa Bojo's Kitchen. Today I've got something real special. I'm going to do for you one of my signature dishes. And this is called, in Italian, it's called Pollo Cremosi con Funghi. Or in English, it's chicken with a creamy, lemony mushroom sauce. This is fantastic. It's very easy to do. There's a lot of components to it. But if you watch and you take some good notes, it's really not that difficult to make. What I've got right now is I've got about a quarter of a cup of olive oil, and I've got 4 tablespoons of butter. And I've got this piping hot to begin with. I've got chicken here sliced up very thin. You can pound it out, you can slice it thin, do what you want, but you want it really about that thick only, so it cooks quickly. And what we're going to do is we're going to take and add a little salt and a little pepper to one side. And then what we have is we have a dish here of olive oil and another dish with flour. And the flour is not seasoned with anything, it's just plain flour. So what we do, similar to what we did with the breaded steak, is we're going to dip each one of these pieces real good in the olive oil, and then we're going to dip it in the flour. Make sure we get a good coating of that flour in there. And then we're going to take and we're going to lay it. Be careful with the hot oil. Go from your side out and lay the chicken in like that. These should cook pretty quickly. And when they're done cooking, we're going to put them on paper towels so they can drain. Again, olive oil, good coating of flour. And the pool. Last one. This is probably the longest part of the entire process. Everything else is just assembly. And got a tip for you. Whenever you're cooking anything, if you notice, I don't just have everything ready and cut, prepared just because I'm videotaping it. It's how I do all my cooking, and it makes it very simple. So recommendation for you, if you're going to cook something, get a list of all the ingredients with the proportions, have them pre-measured out. So all you have to do when you're cooking is assemble. You aren't trying to measure and cook at the same time. That just makes things just much more difficult than they need to be. So, okay, this is the last piece here. Make sure I'm going to get a good coating of flour here. Now you can take, if you want this really like super breaded, you could do the flour, the egg wash, and the breadcrumbs. You know, there's different ways. You can get whatever coating you want. For this dish, I prefer this method here. So I'm going to get rid of these things. I've got an extra little piece of chicken here. I'm going to take and put that in there as well. What the heck? Don't like to waste anything. So I'm going to move these things out of the way. And what we're going to do next is I'm going to take the mushrooms, and whenever you use mushrooms, I've got just white button mushrooms. Chanterelles are really good for this. Shiitake's not enough so much. Portobellos would be good. But when you ever have mushrooms, mushrooms have moisture in them. It's always best if you can get a real hot pan or hot pot, and you take the mushrooms and you put those in first, and you extract some of the water. You can typically see the water coming out of them. And I'm going to do this in the same small little pot that I'm going to make the Cremosi sauce in. So any little bit of flavor of that's going to get in the Cremosi sauce as well. So these mushrooms, the pot has come up to temperature, and I don't know if you can see it, but you can see some of the moisture coming out of these mushrooms. That's all you want to do. You just want to make sure they're dry. And why do you want to make sure they're dry? Because then when you add something like butter, or like I'm going to do, I'm going to take some of this oil here, that's with the chicken. I'm going to add just a little bit of that butter and the oil in here. There we go. That's just enough. to stir that around. We're going to cook this in here until they're just cooked down just a bit. They don't need to be cooked down all the way. Just want to get them heated a little bit. Let's take a look at this chicken. Flip this over, flip each one of them over. Now, I want a little bit more browning on it than I have, but what I want to do is I want to get that other side started. And just like with the breaded steak, this is going to take a little bit of time here. If I was on my stove with my gas stove, this would have cooked up a little quicker, but it's still doing a pretty good job. Just for time's sake, we're going to cut away and get back with you in a little bit. So I've been cooking these mushrooms with some of the sauce from the chicken here, and as you can see, they're nice and moist. They've absorbed that flavor of the oil and the butter and the chicken right in them. And what I'm going to do with them right now is I'm going to set them right back in the container that I got. I'm going to leave whatever moisture I have in there. These chicken pieces, as you can see, they're browning really nice now. They're just about ready to take out. Yeah, they're ready. And what I'm going to do is when I take each one out, because remember, I didn't put any salt on them and the flour. I'm just going to add just a little flour, or just a little salt, to each one of these pieces when I take it out. And notice I haven't turned the flame off. There's a reason for that. See how nice and brown these chicken pieces are, and that's just flour and olive oil. So now I've got a couple pieces of broccoli, a couple pieces of carrots. Now I'm going to saute in the same oil here. This is just for the side dish I'm going to have. And as these are going, I'm going to start the Cremosi, which is the cream sauce. First thing you have to do, oh, I have to use that anyways, is you have to create a roux. And so any roux is made with butter or oil and flour. So what I've got 6 tablespoons of butter. So hopefully you can see now, I've got the butter in this pot. And again, that's 6 tablespoons of butter. And to this now, it's just about melted. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of flour and make a light roux. If you're ever going to add flour to anything, please don't just add it directly into whatever you're making. Make a roux first, because the roux, what the roux does is, number one, it cooks the flour for you, which you want to make sure. You don't ever want to put raw flour in anything. And also what it does, it makes sure you don't have any lumps. So you see, the roux come together. It's nice and yellow. Next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add the heavy cream. This is 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. Make sure I get all that heavy whipping cream in there. And this sauce comes together now pretty quick. Just add heavy whipping cream. Once that is mixed in, then I'm going to add 1 cup of chicken broth or chicken stock. I happen to have only chicken stock. So I've got this going in here. We're going to let this now come up to a bit of a boil. Let me check on my vegetables. I want to get these things, I want to get some nice color on them, which I'm doing. Oh, that's good. If you're going to use vegetables for garnish, use anything that you want really, but make sure it's something that might go with the dish. And so what I've got is I've got some charred carrots, and some charred broccoli. I can now take that frying pan off the heat. And I'm going to move things over here, so you're going to see a little bit of movement going on, because I want to get this to the hotter cook plate or cooktop. There you go. Ready? There you go. So now we got this going. This is going to take a while. And you really don't have to wait totally till this comes to a boil. You just want it to be warmed. And then you're going to add 5 tablespoons of lemon juice. This is 5 tablespoons of real lemon, meaning lemon from a jar or a bottle. You can use fresh lemons. If you're going to use fresh lemons for 5 tablespoons, you're talking probably like the juice of about 2.5 medium lemons. But honestly, I've done it both ways. In the cream sauce like this, it's very hard for me to distinguish the difference between the two. I know chefs out there will say, "Oh, you never use jarred sauce or bottled lemon juice." But let me tell you, my friends, in this case, honestly, I can't find any difference. Now I'm going to take about a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of salt to this. Let me see. That's hot enough for me to add in a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. This makes it oh so good. Stir that in real well, making sure all the time that you're scraping the bottom. This is a non-stick pot, so I know that it's not sticking, but nevertheless, it's just a good habit to get into. And once I have it to this point where it's almost going to boil, I'm going to drop all of the mushrooms in. You can make the sauce with or without the mushrooms. You can see the juices of those mushrooms all oozing in the sauce. So the sauce now, you're going to bring it up to a boil. And just when it boils, you're going to take it off. Because if you boil cream with lemon or anything, any citrus type in it, if you bring it to a high boil, you're going to get the sauce to separate. And if it separates, you're all done. Let me taste quickly, see if I need to adjust anything. Oh no. My goodness. If you don't try this sauce, something's wrong with you. This is absolutely my favorite, and that's why it's what I refer to as one of my signature dishes, because it hits the mark every time. No one has ever had this that hasn't just flipped over it. Now you see the bubbles starting. You turn it off. You take it off the heat, and So the last thing I'm going to do before we start plating is I'm going to make a nice fresh relish, something with some citrus in it, so it takes and it complements the flavors of the heaviness and creamy flavor of the fried chicken cremosi. I've got 1 Roma tomato diced. I've got a section of cucumber about the size of the Roma tomato that I used, diced that as well. And then I've got about half that amount of just plain sweet Vidalia onion or Spanish onion. Or if you want to use shallots, you want to use something else, that's fine too. I'm going to add a little salt to this. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper. And then very simply, I'm going to stir in some red wine vinegar. Always put your vinegar in first before you put any oil. I'm stirring this around. Getting flavor mixed around. And then I'm going to drizzle in some EVOO. I've got about a tablespoon of each of extra virgin olive oil and the red wine vinegar. This makes for a nice, good tart and citrusy thing. And also the colors are a lot like the Italian flag. Being this is an Italian dish, you can see these coming together. So now it's all about plating. Got a plate here. First thing we have to do is we have to take some of this Cremosi. We have to put it down on the plate. See how nice and thick and rich that sauce is? And take and move this around just a little bit. I'm going to take these chicken pieces and I'm going to place these right here. On top of them. I'm going to take these carrots and the broccoli. I'm going to place these here. They got a nice char on them. It's going to be a good vegetable with this dish. And then I'm going to take this nice fresh salsa. And place this nice fresh salsa right here. And last but not least is to drizzle, put some of these mushrooms and drizzle this sauce right over the top, making sure you get some of those nice mushrooms in there. And this, my friends, is Pollo Cremosi con Funghi, or chicken cremosi with a lemon cream butter sauce with mushrooms. Here, let me have you take a closer look at this so you can get a nice, good look at all of these flavors going on this dish. This is something, as I mentioned, you're really going to want to try with your friends. And as always, I want to thank you for watching again another episode of Papa Bojo's Kitchen. I hope you'll subscribe. Hit the subscribe word below in the YouTube. And see you next time, everybody. Thank you. Buon appetito.